Hello, everyone, and welcome to your horoscope for the week of December the 11th to the 17th, 2023. Now, we have a really interesting week ahead of us because, on one hand, certain celestial conversations, along with a really powerful new moon in Sagittarius, are going to offer us a lot of momentum. They are going to be offering us, for us, now understand this please symbolically, see the pathway, see the calculation onto how we are going to be aiming at a bullseye. Now, the bullseye is perhaps something in our lives individually that we really, really need to progress with, or it can be a big goal, a big desire, a big project, something perhaps romantic or emotional. That bullseye basically is what our north node in the sign of Aries is triggering for us individually in the present moment. So basically that we are going to be starting, but only starting, to figure out how to get where we need to be. And this energy is, I'm so sorry to say this, but a bit more on the need side than on the want side. But it's divinely orchestrated. So regardless if it's need or strong, purified want, and what I mean by this is not necessarily just a very selfish, very self-centered uh, desire, basically, but rather something that we want because it is aligned with a big truth within us, and there is very strong resonance. So in that sense, what we want or may need in our lives at this moment is in a way also divinely inspired, divinely, let's say, amplified. And of course, this because this is one of those weeks, perhaps the first week, when Neptune is in a clear way direct. It's not moving all that much, but at least it is you know, at least it's doing something, you know what I mean? At least it's making a few minutes forward. And that, in a way, counts so very much in these confusing times. But of course, as I said earlier, we do need to have this understanding of our inner truth, of our inner um, aligned worldview, basically, because otherwise, this week has a lot of challenge attached to it. A challenge because the sun in itself, but also the new moon phenomenon, is going to be holding a conversation of tension with Neptune, a direct Neptune, but still a shadowy Neptune because it's very, very slow. So it means business. And that means a very, very strong disillusionment or an episode, a moment of not just the year, but of this cycle when we really, really are seeking our most pure, most clear, most resonant beliefs, or what truth in any way, shape, and form, not necessarily spiritual or religious or all that much ethereal, not even all that much highly philosophical, but for example, what justice, what the future, Sagittarius, uh, what our connection to life, our connection to external reality, our connection to the world or the international sphere means for us personally. Those things are related to our own inner truth, an answer that no one else except our own being can offer to us, but they're not very spiritual. Of course, they may be rooted in something spiritual, but as they appear, they don't have to be all that much spiritually charged, uh, and still they matter so very much in a big sense. Perhaps a lot of choices, a lot of decisions, how we react to certain stimuli, and basically life itself is actually rooted in this belief and in this connection, and also understanding to life and reality and everything in it, basically. The core of Sagittarius, that's what it actually is, and also Jupiter. And speaking about both of these energies, so Sagittarius on one hand and the ruler Jupiter on the other hand, both of these are going to be making strong connections in the sense that Jupiter connects with Venus in a very relevant way. On the other hand, the sign of Sagittarius is hosting, on one hand, the new moon, as I said earlier, but on the other hand, also Mars. So it's very, very activated. Mars is the energizer along with the sun. The sun and Mars's conjunction is not going to be strong at all, but it doesn't have to be because they're co-present in the sign. Both of these are, remember, fiery energies. Sagittarius is a fire sign, so this will provide the intensity. And going back to the original thought, the sun square with Neptune is really going to be washing us away. But that washing away, as uncomfortable as it may be, it purifies, it dissolves everything that is, a matter of belief, a matter of higher understanding, even a matter of knowledge, but also matter of faith, also matter of worldview, also matter of inner resonance, but our higher self resonating or not resonating anymore with certain philosophies, ideas out there. Those are going to be very, very transformating and game changing in this period. The lower expression of this energy, of course, sun is the light of our consciousness, what we project out there. So a certain form of depression, disillusionment, disappointment, and confusion, to searching for what we believe in, but not necessarily either in just a Sagittarian way, neither in a Neptunian, so Piscean way, but rather the both at the same time, which means something needs to crystallize. But before it crystallizes, it's purified. So washed, basically. I don't even know the best example to give. When we are cooking with like beans or lentils or anything like that, first we soak it, wash it and soak it usually. So this is the soaking, because before we can use the knowledge, the higher understanding that we are achieving at this present moment, now we are soaking it first of all. And that soaking might be uncomfortable, but is important. And not to mention that besides all of this energy, Pluto is an heretic. So that really marks the intensity of the time, the intensity of our reactions, and the intensity that the external Capricorn, top-down authority, centralized power, the big whatever corporations, big pharma, big institutions, big people, the rich and the powerful, Pluto in the sign of Capricorn, those impact us very intensely right now, our own individual ways. So this week is going to be quite intense. And to top this all up, this week is preparing us for this upcoming Capricorn solstice, a very powerful moment. Generally speaking, at any given year, any given time, but in our times, especially, very, very intense. Capricorn is going to be still the host of that energetic Pluto, so you can imagine. But with this being said, I'm going to be inviting you to look at my screen, and let's go through each day as it comes. So we are on the 11th. The 11th is kind of important on one hand because it is in preparation for the new moon in Sagittarius. The moon is entering the sign of Sagittarius on the 11th, so very, very important. But on the other hand, Venus is holding still a quite powerful opposition with Jupiter. So Venus is the ruler of Taurus. Hence, Venus is in Scorpio. So in exile, uncomfortable, not able to bring out her higher qualities. So quite on point in the sign of Scorpio, in the sense that she wants things completed, she wants things done. She is very, very result and again, the reaching the target oriented. She wants these things, her needs, her desires, her feelings, basically. She wants them complete. She wants a resolution. She wants to see, as I said earlier, results. And Jupiter expands this, so we may feel a great sense of urgency in matters of love, in matters of lust. We cannot ignore this aspect with Venus and Scorpio. In matters of finances, especially financial security, but in a sense, debt. Now, speaking about debt, this is like a double edged sword, because this energy can create debt, but that which is not all that wise. For example, strong attraction. I need this or that and that and that. And when I say the bad kind of debt, keep in mind that purchasing electronics, purchasing equipment that is very electrical, purchasing big and expensive expensive equipment, especially for company, especially for business, especially for your professional life, especially for work, is perhaps not the most ideal idea at this time. And I know that it's Christmas or the whatever winter holidays coming up, so presents and all that, but Mercury, maybe not necessarily on the 11th, but it's still standing still in the sky. So we're already in Mercury retrograde period. So we're under that energy very, very powerfully. Now, I also know, and this is one of the best energies of the week and also of this 11th, Mercury is still holding a conversation of supreme harmony, a trine with Jupiter. So this means generosity as well. This means that we want to buy the best gift. But because Mercury is in shadow, keep in mind that, and not just shadow, but the energy is already standing still in the sky, even though that happens on the 12th and 13th, you know. But, you know, keep in mind that the way this is going to play out, the generosity aspect is welcome. It is beautiful, loving, exaggerated, even Venus opposing Jupiter. Like, that can mean, on one hand, scarcity. On the other hand, it can mean excessive generosity. So the gift idea, wanting to give the generous, is there, is definitely there. But keep in mind that whatever gift you may buy, it might need to be swapped or returned in January, when Mercury will start going direct. So don't let this be a spoil. Don't let this get in the way. Don't let this ruin the spirit of generosity. And this potentially being a problem can also be backed up by the Sun squaring Neptune. Because the disappointment, the disillusionment, I thought that is Sagittarius, and I want to go an extra mile to make that person really feel the generosity or the gift in gesture, in wrapping, or in expense or whatever. But the Sun is going to square Neptune. Oh, but it doesn't fit, it doesn't match. The inconvenience that is possible here. That can be the downside when you get disappointed. Don't let that happen. So what if you're gonna change it? So what if you need to swap it? So what if whatever complication arises and the gift isn't delivered ideally? The gesture is what counts. And trust me that the gesture can truly matter much more right now because of the Mercury trine Jupiter. Mercury is the planet of the mind perception. Capricorn very down to earth. So the first chances are the person can really get the idea and can appreciate it. And it may come as a delight. And maybe the person will look at the situation that, well, it doesn't matter if it doesn't fit or whatever the complication is, I can change it. And maybe the person welcomes the I can change it much more. You know, it can even go the opposite way that you actually feel immediately. Hence, opposite Venus opposing Jupiter. The feeling can be quite opposite than what you imagine. So stay optimistic and know that the gesture is going to truly be appreciated. But back to my guidance, if you necessarily want to invest in big electronics, if it's possible in your situation, maybe you might want to wait until the worst case 1st of January, best case end of January, or maybe buying a sort of voucher, or maybe the present being like a note that I wish to buy this for you, so let's go together and you choose it and I'll pay for it. This can be a really good idea if it's possible, of course, in your situation. If it's not, absolutely no problem. Why? Because the present or whatever, maybe the electronics breaking down or warranty, or again, going back that the present might not be delivered the ideal way, that itself can be fated. The mistake, the fault, the problem may be fated because the sun, especially on the 11th, is holding a quincunx with Uranus. Uranus is exactly that. The faulty equipment. The warranty needs to be used. It doesn't fit. Or there is a big chaos, external chaos, which disrupts the delivery. I'm sorry, I don't have the product. You make all the arrangements and you're guaranteed that it's gonna be there. You go get to the shop or the transaction gets to the chance to happen. Surprise, surprise, the product or the present or the item is no longer available. Expect all of this with, on one hand, Mercury retrograde, on the other hand, the Sun quincunx Uranus. However, all of this, especially the bad, can be fated and it can bring to somewhere really positive. You don't allow this energy to actually work in your life. Don't fight aggressive, balance yourself out by any means, but don't fight strongly back against it because you don't know where it might take you. Let me just give you a stupid example. Uh, the warranty thing, you have to go to the shop, return the item, and get a new one. Okay, inconvenience, but you make the journey. And for you to make the journey, you need to take a taxi, a cab. You get to the cab. The driver is someone who is fated to be part of your life in one way or another. Like, I'm so sorry about this, but Venus in Scorpio opposing Jupiter, the expansion, maybe sensually or romantically, but maybe in any other. The driver with the conversation gives you the best life advice. The driver tells you his own story about whatever, and his story inspires you because you have the same situation. Allow this energy to flow in your life as inconvenience and as, I'm so sorry about, again, my choice of words, Mercury is going to be really bitchy, you know? Low-key. This is when he's low-key. Of course, this is when thieves, con artists, liars, players, even Venus in Scorpio opposing Jupiter, especially players, especially like, Don Juan's, that archetype is going to be maximally empowered. So all of us may be a victim to this, our a deception, a lie, Don Juan situation, stuff like that. And this is again a Venus Jupiter opposition. We may be victim to this in a way that we wouldn't even imagine in our lives, where we become the Don Juan or the deceptive person without even wanting it, without even planning it, with no malevolence whatsoever. Remember Uranus quincunx. We could just end up in that. It just happened on autopilot or fate triggered, and it got into it can just happen. So expect Uranus to also play this divine humor on us, even though there are definitely going to be some expressions of this energy which are definitely not going to be humorous, especially understand this collectively. Now, Uranus with the sun, aviative, anything in aviation that can go wrong. I don't want to say anything doomy and gloomy like accidents and whatever, but weirdness. The plane disappears and it appears. Quincunx. Was it a plane or was it something intergalactic? And news hitting this and laws about this appearing out of nowhere. Like we have like a planetary defense law and we might not even know about that. So expect a lot of weirdness, expect a lot of unusual, expect a lot of galactic, anything that has to do with galaxy, aliens, extraterrestrial, big, perhaps anomalies in space observed through astronomy, so not astrology, astronomy, so proper scientific means. Expect a lot of this and technology appearing, technology that may blow our mind. So all of this can be part of the quincunx, and this energy is very powerful. On one hand, on the 11th, on the other hand, at the time of the new moon, so 12th or 13th of December. But we'll get to that just a little bit later on. I want to highlight Mercury trining Jupiter because Mercury will keep this trine until it starts going backwards. So this trine is insistent. This trine is highlighted. The universe is insisting on this trine, and this is actually the saving grace for this Mercury retrograde period because this trine is going to be held once again. In theory, 3 times. The first time passed already when Mercury went direct, when Mercury was at 6 degrees of Capricorn. It will be exact the second time when Mercury goes retrograde back to the 6th degree of Capricorn, and then be held for the a third and final time. I do believe in January when Mercury will re-enter Capricorn and get back to another degree, because Jupiter by that time will also start going direct. So this trine is, as I said, the saving grace. It's an earth trine, it's practical, it's meant to solve something, a problem from the past, a problem with administration, a problem with finances, but especially the legal Jupiter and the technical stuff, this paperwork, that paperwork, finances, taxes, calculations, going back and forth to authorities and financial organization, banks, stuff like that. But as inconvenient, as an annoying, and as this usually is, keep in mind that this solves problems. This is meant to solve for the long term. Both Capricorn are signs of longevity, and Taurus, especially Taurus. So whatever you need to resolve, medical problem, earth sign, can be the case physical body, financial problem, practical problem, career problem, something to do with your diplomas, papers, studies, stuff. All of this, take care of it, because this is benevolent. This will be a big blessing. Good will come from it, or being at peace. So again, this marks the theme for the Mercury retrograde period, and the benevolence of this is highlighted by this trine. The non-benevolence of this we may be experiencing later on when Mercury enters Sagittarius and will square Neptune. That is going to be the harder moment. But as hard as it may be, remember the benevolence. Remember, if we are in the flow and we don't dramatize and self-victimize, neither do we give into something silly, too silly to be truly positive, like promises and cons, then we are actually navigating very positively. And another reason why this week is going to be so intense, look at my screen, the moon. The moon all throughout the week is going to be transiting through Sagittarius and Capricorn and entering Aquarius, but that means it will touch Mars, the sun, the moon, hence the new moon. Then we also have Ceres there that is not shown on the screen. Mercury, Pluto, and Mercury is hanging out with a group of small planets. Quaoar, dwarf planet, then asteroid Pholus, and then dwarf planet Ixion. All of these are here at around 7 degrees Ixion at 3 degrees of Capricorn. I'll show them later on. So it's also quite important that those dwarf planets / asteroid are also trining Jupiter. Quaoar's trine to Jupiter is very sublimely beautiful, because it means the healing power, restorative power, balancing power, grounding power, positive effect overall of music, sound, vibrations, dance. When you tap into your instinct, and your instinct just follows music or dance or art, connecting to yourself or to your inner Venus, whatever that means to you, through song and music, and a very active, basically divine connection. Active in the sense that it's felt through body. And then Pholus. Sometimes curiosity gets you a long way. Sometimes overcoming your boundaries, stepping out of your comfort zone, even if it feels so and so, sometimes that's a good idea. And finally, Ixion. Now, Ixion usually is not benevolent, but in a benevolent sense, is that sometimes taking justice into your own hands is a good idea. Like, for example, I know I shouldn't give any example like this, because, but you strongly disagree with a certain kind of tax, and you find a way not to pay it, to avoid paying it. You know what I mean? Sometimes it's possible. Sometimes the person is right, because sometimes the law does not respect morality, the secular law. But anyway, I shouldn't. Sorry, but you understand, this was just for the sake of exemplifying what this energy means. So this is really, really positive and powerful, but let's move on. On the 12th, a big highlight is that, as you can see, the moon is conjunct Mars. This is one of the moon moments. We're going to be feeling something very strongly about Mars in Sagittarius. Law, justice, what the International Court of Law or the United Organizations, or, religious stuff. Mars in Sagittarius, religious debate, political debate. big philosophies clashing, stuff like that. We're going to feel strongly about that, or something in aviation, something galactic again, big news in astronomy. And chances are, because the sun quincunx Uranus, solar flare, solar activity, Schumann resonance, so stuff like that, where our feelings are really, really going to be triggered around these themes and topics. But don't get me wrong, this can be quite beautiful. This can be a surprise. This can be an invitation. This can be news from abroad, from people who we know from abroad. This can be a lot of positive, pleasant surprises as well that we react to. Now, moving on the 13th, you cannot see it on my screen because this is after the new moon, but there is the new moon phenomenon in the sign of Sagittarius, approximately at 20-21 degrees. Now, I have a separate video about this where I examine this energy. I'm going to link to it down below. If you are guided, please check it out. But this new moon squares Neptune on one hand. So this is where we're really going to be striving to find our healthiest faith, belief, worldview, understanding, knowledge of something, about something. So in a nutshell, this is what this energy can be about. But it can translate to practical things like, again, courts of justice, something to do with the law, something to do with your studies, something to do with your specialization as a professional, something to do with your worldview, but in a non-spiritual or religious sense. Politics, for example. This can this can do with a lot of things, but keep in mind the sun in the sign of Sagittarius is very optimistic. Squaring Neptune, that's like the optimism drowning, that, or a very fake optimism. You know what I mean? False hope. But we need to be good managers of this energy. We mustn't be like the sorrowful spoiled brat where, oh, I won't get what I want and I believed in it and I hoped for it so much. We must not do like, we must follow the flow. We must look at the benevolence in everything, and we must embrace the purifying factor of this energy, because this removes misaligned beliefs. This aligns us to our soul calling in feeling and also in understanding. Allow the confusion to wash away that which is false. Because sometimes a confusion is just a resonance to what is false. There is something, a belief, a truth, an idea, a form, a way of dishing out a knowledge. And even though we understand it, something inside of us feels confused. That might be a resonance that it's false for us personally, for who it is that we are, for our soul or for our higher self. It doesn't resonate. So this is the energy that we are going to get a lot. But needless to say, this will play out on the world stage. Because of Neptune, there can be a lot of flooding somewhere, or the destructive element of the water, strange weather phenomenon. Uranus quincunxing it can also be part of the picture. Something may come from the sky, Sagittarius, like, I don't know, meteor shower, or expect auroras at this, expect, as I said, some kind of space weather phenomenon that is unusual. So this new moon is going to be quite active, and but before I don't forget the best part of the new moon, it's going to trine the North Node and Aries and let's say also Chiron in the sign of Aries. And that's beautiful. That is where, despite the disillusioning Neptune, again, the square to Neptune, despite the disappointment or the confusion, or us having a very powerful reality check about our beliefs, whatever we hope for, our optimism being grounded. But remember, it still has to be optimistic. So regardless of how that plays out, we can also very well see the divine purpose, that even the negative, even the reality check, even the disappointment still serves our purpose, our way forward, our breakthrough, our survival, our sovereignty, our most brute, if that can make sense, truth, inner truth, the North Node conjunct Eris and Aries. And Mars, the ruler of Aries, is also in the sign of Sagittarius, quite close to the new moon. So again, a powerful synergy here playing out. So if you'd like to know more about the new moon, check out my video. I'm good. Oh, but before I move on, I would like to show you a bit about the asteroids, because at this time, Venus, remember in Scorpio, is conjunct Pallas Athena. They are still opposing Jupiter, but the opposition is waning. But Pallas Athena is a principle of tactics. It is a principle of wisdom, of where thought combined with knowledge, with maturity and understanding, where it can lead us. Venus is the principle of pleasure, a principle of wanting, having, needing. So this is where something sinks in. Venus is what we need, what we want to have, or lost, or debt again, finances, the investment, uh, remember the Mercury retrograde energy that I spoke about, the Christmas or winter celebration, uh, gifts and what not to purchase, what to purchase. Well, this is where something about that sinks in. But also, this can be related to something very personal, where we find a way how to manage our finances. We might not necessarily like it, both in Jupiter, but it works, it functions, it makes sense. We're going to try it because it gets us to where we want. And the discomfort or whatever inconvenience that is part of that, we accept it. So hence the Mercury retrograde season is beginning. This will set the theme as well. But it's ultimately a good energy. Why? Both this Pallas Athena and Venus sextile Mercury. So the idea is good. It works. It gets us there. We just need to manage it. Be good managers here. And while I'm here, I would just like to show you Quaoar, Mercury, Quaoar, and Pholus conjunction. And Ixion is here. And the moon, the next day, is going to conjunct all of these planets here. So yes. Let's move on the 14th, when on the 14th we have Mercury retrograde conjunct the moon. So again, our feelings about the Mercury retrograde season, sink in. Now, of course, this can have a very annoying side to it as well. The annoyance kinks in. I can't believe my computer broke. I can't believe my internet is playing off. I can't believe I forgot to pay the internet bill. So all of these events, the Mercury retrograde annoyance events, are gonna starting to kick in, but at the same time, trying to Jupiter, we must not forget that the positive side. Oh, I'm gonna take care of this. I'm not gonna be bothered by the inconvenience side. I am actually looking this as an opportunity to take care of this, that, whatever Mercury brings up from the past and is not resolved. So again, there is a good side to this. And this is the day when the sun's trine to the North Node is exact. This is one of those days and it's very, very powerful. Again, we can feel the empowerment, where it doesn't matter what we're going through, we see the reason that it gets us where we need to be. Our purposes, our karmic path forward, whatever we need to create, whatever we need to initiate, whatever we need to fight for, in the good sense of the word, of course, whatever we need to strive for, or whatever we need to, like Aries, push forward towards, like a battering ram. But again, not in the violent, not in the fanatical, not in the sense that we see playing out on the world stage, not in that manner whatsoever. Moving on to the 15th, this is where we have, on one hand, Mars conjunct what we call the Great Attractor. Now, the Great Attractor is like a spatial anomaly, which is so very powerful that it can bend and twist galaxies, especially certain arms of the Andromeda and Milky Way galaxy. In astrology, that is like the primordial abyss. That is where it sucks everything inside of it and it purifies it. It returns it to the untouched, uncorrupted primordial state. So Mars conjunct that, I'm not even sure what to call it, point in astrology, like a fixed star almost. That's the way we can treat it. That has a very strong purification side to it. That is where it's really good to release everything that doesn't serve us. But again, the release part goes hand in hand with Mars activating that point, trining Chiron in Mars's home sign of Aries. A very, very powerful healing side to it. How this will play out on the world stage remains to be seen. But I imagine this is where the compassionate side of the international community and of law and morality comes into play. That is how I see this energy playing out. But this somehow evokes a moment of healing. Or, quite individually, this is when we become healers, like it or not, want it or not, know it or not, be aware of it or not. When life puts us into position of the healer, when we help a person, for example, eliminate something from their lives. This is a really, really beautiful energy. And also at this moment, the release and the heal factor, the moon conjuncts Pluto, we are emotionally letting go of something. It's intense, it has power over us, but we're letting go, we're tapping into healing. Or the moon conjunct Pluto, we're allowing someone else with power or greater knowledge, greater experience to heal us. We allow healing to take place in our lives. So it's again a really, really beautiful energy. And Venus around this period is holding a quincunx to Chiron. So of course it's not easy. Of course, Venus in the sign of Scorpio, all the heaviness, all the can I forgive or only forget or vice versa. So all of this is not all that easy, but it is happening. We are on the 16th, and this is important because the sun perfects the square with Neptune. So this is the moment of disillusionment. This is that moment when fate kind of twists and turns into a certain direction, which is not as hopeful or optimistic, or way too hopeful and way too optimistic. And we know that that's not the right path for us. So we have to go with the flow. But ultimately, this is very, very important because this is like a reality check. And on the other hand, Saturn has already moved to 2 degrees of the sign of Pisces. So Saturn is starting to come online. The grounding principle. What is real, what is not real. We need to do the right thing, including morally. This is like Saturn is like a strong psychological support here because we know we have to stay in reality. We know we may not allow ourselves to go into victim mode, into fear, into panic, into negativity. We just know that we have to get the attitude right this time. And by this moment, Mercury is going backwards. It's already at 7th degree of Capricorn, so it started its backward movement. Of course, symbolically speaking, because in real life it doesn't. No planet ever moves backward. And finally, we get to the end of the week when Venus perfects her quincunx with Chiron. So yes, as I said, it's not a very easy energy, and I do believe that this quincunx has to do a lot with when Venus was in the sign of Libra and she opposed Chiron. So something based around that. So it's not a very easy energy because the need to heal and the healing, remember, Mars is still trining Chiron, that is there, but Venus in the sign of Scorpio has to process this, has to allow this, has to manage this. So things from the past, for example, individually speaking, can come up. A lot of energy can come up from the past with this Venus and Scorpio. And this has a lot of heaviness to it. And we must not forget that 15 degree is the very middle of the sign, any sign. So it has a strong intensity to it, always. So both of this Chiron and Venus are at that 15 degrees. And Chiron himself is very slow. Chiron is going to go direct in December as well. So there's that side to this energy, that Chiron himself is amplified, magnified, but we see its amplification on the world stage. And it's very, very not pretty. But again, Venus quincunx, Chiron, especially in the sign of Scorpio. Remember toxicity, lack of hygiene, viruses can also represent the danger of that, where it's not unexpected. That's an unexpected side. Like to be conflict and the wounding, the classical typical wounding, and there to come viruses and illnesses. And you can imagine Scorpio, the toxicity due to the humanitarian crisis and lack of hygiene. So there is going to be that side as well. And this can also represent a spike in sexually transmitted diseases of any kind, maybe diseases which were already eliminated in the past, in the 90s or 80s, by medical advancement. Maybe old diseases like that are going to make a comeback. Black Moon Lilith in the sign of Virgo has this effect, really. You know what I mean? It has this effect where it makes everything biological, or better said, microscopical, become more alive, and as usually the shadow expression. It amplifies the brutality of nature, but in this sense, microbiological sense. So a lot of infections can occur. Yeah. And Neptune in the sign of Pisces, Saturn in the sign of Pisces also kind of adds to this. It adds to this energy. So before I close this horoscope, I would just like to say that it can be so very confusing this week, not just because of the Mercury retrograde, because it breaks down communications and we need to figure stuff out. We might not understand what authorities want, the absurdity of bureaucracy and all of that. And there is the Neptune energy squaring the sun. And then it will square Mercury retrograde when it will move back into Sagittarius. So that kind of confusion, we don't know what exactly what to believe in and what not to believe in. However, we do need to stay, grounded. We do need to stay balanced. We do need to really embrace our inner truth, what really, really resonates in our heart. And sometimes, again, I'm going to this Venus in Scorpio, sometimes it is actually the inner animal, or Black Moon Lilith in Virgo, the gut that knows what our truth is, or what the right choice, what the right direction is. So we must stay focused as much as we can, but at the same time, not aggressively fight against the energy, especially the confusing, chaotic, and weird and the random stuff, because that can also have a fated side to it. Stay balanced, stay, as grounded as we can, but not in a rigid way, because rigidity is not going to be our help, our ally at this moment. Remember at the beginning of the week, Venus opposing Jupiter. A very, very rigid approach is not going to get us anywhere. We will need to work with the energy as best as we can, and do not allow the mind, mental health issues, or our usual psychological wishy-washiness to put us into a bad mood, to put us into victim mode, to put us into fear mode or in a hopelessness, because that is going to be the worst possible idea and the worst possible action this week, because that can be magnified, amplified by Jupiter, and we really, really don't want that. So we must really try to go with the flow as in much balance and equilibrium as we possibly can. And our faith is our greatest weapon at this moment. So we must allow it to wash, to purify, because after it purifies, it crystallizes and it's going to be stronger than ever. It really, really will. So, with this being said, thank you everyone for listening. Thank you for all the love and support. If you'd like to support my channel, you can donate in the PayPal link in the description below. And wishing everyone a really blessed new moon. Don't forget to plant the seed of intention, but without any strong expectations. Remember the Neptune square. And dream big, be hopeful, be optimistic, but in a grounded and healthy sense. Thank you again. Until next time, bye for now.